Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's Comic Crack. It's Sunday. It's a little bit earlier than normal for my Sunday wrap-up video here. There was no chat on Sunday, obviously, so for those of you who weren't around, you didn't miss anything with Father's Day and stuff going on. Just didn't have time to make it back. I think Damien was in the same boat. Yeah, we'll see what happens next week. A few books to talk to you about this week. It was actually a pretty good week of reading, some really great stuff, and did some reorganizing down here as well too in this drawer that you're looking at. Maybe we'll take a look over on this side. This drawer, well, we'll talk about it later. So I kind of did some reorganizing, and maybe we'll dig into it. But before we get into the books themselves here, let's move this stuff out of the way and talk about this for a sec. So I'm been a big Merzbow fan since kind of the mid 90s, I guess. I can't remember when Pulse Demon came out, but I think like a lot of people, that was a very early intro for me. I don't buy many of his CDs anymore. I've got a massive amount of his stuff on CD and record. But this one I couldn't resist. Konchuki by Merzbow. Good evening, G. How you doing? 4 tracks, everything by Masami Akita. Artwork by Vladimir Stankovic. I don't know that name. Released by Essence Music, and it looks like it was recorded 2014. So for those of you who don't know, Masami Akita is a noise artist. Kind of him and Masana are arguably the kind of kings of the Japanese extreme noise. Masami Akita himself is a vegan and an animal rights activist, and a lot of the noise that he makes, that's sort of like the sound source, the originating source of kind of his harsh noise stuff. It's definitely not for everybody, but like I said, I've loved it since the 90s. I couldn't resist getting this one though for this reason. I think it's beautiful packaging, so I had to get a physical copy of this just to have that pop out. Because he's been around so long and he's so goddamn prolific, there's a lot of kind of limited edition things that end up coming out from him, whether that's mini box sets and stuff like that, or things like this that has some kind of very nice kind of packaging or artwork attached to it. He does his own paintings as well too, so I've got some records where the cover is painted by Masami. I've seen him twice. He's come through Winnipeg twice, believe it or not. Or has he come through 3 times? I've seen him twice. He might have been through 3 times, actually. And it was earth-shaking, to say the least, because I've been a fan for so long. So, yeah, the quote-unquote music recommendation for this week. So we'll start, since you're here, G, why don't we start with a bit of heavy metal. So, Mind the Comics, Gus had another live stream the other night as he's continuing to clean off his collection. And there was talk, excuse me, he was showing off some books. And one of the books he showed off was The Mercenary by Segreye's, I'm going to say. Anyway, The Mercenary, apparently Paulo Costa is a huge fan of it as well. And Gore Vidal in the chat was saying that he first got introduced to the Mercenary through Heavy Metal Magazine. So I did some searching on Comic Vine, which I use all the time for. It's a fairly good resource. Still not finished cleaning. No, it seems like you have a lot of books to go through. It's a pretty good resource. It doesn't list everything. I have a feeling I don't know if it's a user. Thank you, G. I'm glad to hear that. I don't know if it's a kind of people who are visiting the site that can kind of add to things or not. I should look into it, because there's often a lot of stuff that's missed from artists, but especially when you're getting into kind of independent or comics coming from around the world, it's a pretty loose resource. But I was able to find the issues, and it turns out I have a bunch of them. So I gave this issue a read. This was probably an issue that I got in that big lot of heavy metal magazines years ago. I bought a box of them at a comic convention we were set up at. Let's lower you down a little bit here. Something like that. There we go. Let's try that. So this is from an era of heavy metal that I have a bunch from the 80s, but I just haven't really dug into them. There seems to be a real focus for me personally on kind of those early years, and those early years are phenomenal, no doubt, but I really feel like I'm missing out a lot from the 80s heavy metal magazines. So I'm looking forward to digging into it because I've got a bunch in a row at this chunk, so I'll be able to at least follow that story and some of the other ones that are in here for a few issues anyway. So we'll have kind of a quick look. It's beautiful, as Gus showed in his stream. I think we got a Chaikin thing first. Let's go back to the credit page. Actually, when he was showing off books in his stream, this last stream, it was incredible. Some amazing stuff, and I'm surprised at. I guess I always felt like obviously there's a shit ton of stuff that hasn't been released in English, but I was surprised at how much has actually had English language translations rather. Yeah, and I was at a bookstore today, this bookstore that I don't normally get to called McNally Robinson. It's a local bookstore, so it's Winnipeg started, Winnipeg owned, Winnipeg run. They have another one in, I think it's Regina or Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, which is the province next to us, if you're traveling west. But that's it. They had a second store here in town, but it didn't do so well. I think it was more due to location as opposed to anything else. But a fantastic bookstore. I've been going in there for a long time. And they always have, whoever buys their graphic novels for that store does an amazing job of curating a really nice selection of books. Like there's always a lot of good stuff on the shelves there, and their manga section has grown and grown. And actually there was quite a few manga this time as well too that I was interested in. I didn't end up picking anything up, but I do have some stuff on Marketplace here in town, so I'm hoping that some of that stuff sells so I can translate that into some new books. So we got Kaza, we got Jeff Jones, Gary Davis, John Workman, Richard Corbin, of course, a write-up on Philip Drouillet, Enki Bilal, with another story or a chapter from a story you were showing off as well there, G. Brad Belfour, Jose Bayfont, Jim Steranko, Nicolette, Murad, Kierkegaard, Paul Kirchner. The bus strips are always entertaining. Yeah, and there's also an article on censorship, I think, in comics here. I didn't read that article. I just went through and read the strips. I just looked for boobies. I didn't read any of the articles. I am not here for the articles, but I will probably revisit them. So let's have a look here. So here we go, The Mercenary. Beautiful artwork in here, just incredible. The story itself, this first chapter, very minimal. A guy going to save a woman, naked woman, no less, and a battle ensues, and that's kind of the gist of this first story here. But I mean, when it's stuff like this, I'm here for the art first and foremost, and it's gorgeous to look through. Hopefully that glare is okay. Yeah, so great to dip into these every once in a while. And then here's the Kaza story, which I loved this one. I don't think this is in that collection that I have. The characters look vaguely familiar, but I really like this story. Some loud neighbors, and he kind of joins them, and they're a bunch of hippies, and he kind of partakes and starts loosening up and kind of comes to this realization about his existence and stuff. This is Kaza looking like himself, not completely like Mobius, as in some of his work. But I really liked this story a lot. I thought it was great. And again, the thing with some of this stuff is the coloring. I love the colors in this stuff too. So those blues and greens are really nice. Nilgish. Gary Davis. An invention of Gary Davis. And let's see, what else did we have as I look through the camera here? Den 2, a chapter of Den 2 by Corbin, which is always beautiful to look at. Hello, Loading the Cannon, Colin. How you doing, man? New music, a bit of Lydia Lunch in there. Some more write-ups. Here we go. And then here's the article, The Art of Philip Drouillet, with some great imagery here, of course. Drouillet, one of the founders of Metal Hurlant. Jimi Hendrix there. Some very odd, I guess, airbrushing in there as well, too. It doesn't say. Cover for Pilote book of the same name, Salambo, rather. The temple, the silk screen. I really like this one, gouache on cardboard. I like this one a lot. Yeah, so we know Drouillet. Here we go. So this is the Bilal chapter, the Immortals Fete. In the safety of their quarters, Horus and Nicopol plan the strategy for their Parisian takeover. Meanwhile, the Immortals learn of Nicopol's cryogenic past and become all too curious. AFPC, how you doing, man? So, yeah, needless to say, I'm looking forward to dipping into a few of these issues again here. Oh, this one was actually really fantastic. I really like this this last, or one of these last stories here. There you go. Yeah, the Nicopol trilogy. So this is Domestic Unit 3M, Tales of the Galactic Inn. Let's get the credits on this one properly. Tales of the Galactic Inn by Jose Bay Font. This was a really neat little story. Yeah, this guy gets trapped. He's lifting up a part of the furniture here, and it falls on him, and he gets trapped, and his hands are getting crushed. And these robots who are here to kind of service don't seem to register that he's trapped and he's in danger. They start force feeding him, forcing him to drink. It's a pretty intense story, man. They just don't register that there's something wrong, and they're trying to clean him. They're trying to fix his clothes. They're stuffing food in his face. Like I said, just gorging him. And there's a lot of imagery like this, which is kind of horrific. And just the idea, as he's just still here, stuck, and and then eventually dies. But it's a really, really intense little story. While the rest of the it's somebody retelling a story, and it's a guy with no hands as well too. So there's this idea that it's a little bit of a fairy tale, and he's exaggerating a story again. Outland by Steranko, another chapter, or a chapter of that, which is pretty great. The flow of reading this story is really fantastic. It almost feels like a strip, you know what I mean? Even though they're these huge images, it really feels like a weekly strip as you're reading that Outland. But then you also get things like this, like that's just fucking beautiful. It's really beautiful stuff. So yeah, I don't know that creator, that black and white. I assume that's the one you guys are talking about. I don't know that creator at all, so I'll have to check him out to see what's going on there and see what else they've done. And then the Kirchner piece. I thought this is fun. I really like I'm wondering if there's a collection of this Kirchner The Bus strips, because these are always kind of entertaining, kind of silly. I got a kick out of that one quite a bit. I thought that was pretty well done. Arthur Soydam. There we go. So that is the... Oh, you were, hey? Yeah. It's in these issues for sure. So I don't... Again, it's one of those... I don't know if they ever did a release on its own in a collected form. Let's go to this one because it's next on the list. So this is from Harrier Comics, and part of this reorganization of this drawer. Yeah, I mean, I figured there would be. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that online. When I was going through the collection, the stuff that takes up half of this drawer is the very small publishers, not limited to the 80s, and but some in the 90s, some a little bit bigger, where it's mostly the publishers where I only have a small amount of their books. So I organized it by publisher and then put them in alphabetically, the books themselves. And it turns out I've got a few Harrier comics, and every single Harrier comic that I have is pretty incredible in its own way. So this Calgon the Golden, a tale by E.C. Tubb, so a science fiction writer we were talking about before. Here's the credits here. Lettering and artwork by Ron Turner, not that Ron Turner. So Ron Turner was going to do a series of these books, Nick Hazard being one of the other ones, that were going to be these kind of, I think they were all going to be one-off sci-fi stories. Do they list another one at the back here? Yes, they do. So there's the Nick Hazard one. And then they were going to do the Golden Amazon, which was also a series of books from what I understand. I don't know anything about them, but I know that they did exist when I was looking into it. As far as I can tell, this Golden Amazon didn't come out from Harrier, but I kind of wish it had. I really, really dug this. The story itself was great. It was, again, like we're talking comics, so it was passable as a sci-fi kind of space opera, as Damien, I think, referred to the writer as. But honestly, this art is just fucking gorgeous. I want more. I want more of this Ron Turner's comics. So I don't know if I said it already. Harrier was a UK publisher, and they put out some great stuff. We're going to look at Nightbird as well here in a second, which was also a Harrier book. But Harrier is now kind of top of my list for publishers to just kind of grab whatever they put out, because there's some gorgeous work here. The art definitely makes it AFPC 100%. Yeah. Yeah, Barbarian, I only have one issue of that. I did find it, though, as I was kind of reorganizing here, so I'm looking forward to dipping into that as well, too. But this was a really, really enjoyable read. Really dug it. So this guy basically looking for Calgon the Golden, and they have this kind of this battle. This Calgon the Golden is immortal, and he just wants to die at this point. He's been alive for who knows how long, and he just wants he's done. He wants to kind of pass on the mantle and have somebody kill him. So this is it here. But I mean, look at these panels. It's beautiful work, man. I was really impressed with this one quite a bit here. So that was a fun read this week. And probably one of my favorite reads of the week. Actually, like I said at the beginning, this entire week there was some great stuff. But I gotta say, there was a couple of things that stood kind of head and shoulders above, and I gotta say, this Nightbird #1 was one of those books. This was a blast. The story was difficult. It was this group of women who are kind of criminals. They get roped into this kind of TV show where it's pitting groups of people against other groups. So it's not kind of a fight to the death, because you do come in with some you do come in with some very basic armor, and there are medics and cameras around. So if somebody gets injured on their commercial breaks, they'll come and kind of take you off of the field. So it's not a fight to the death, but there is a big cash prize at the end. And man, oh fucking man, this guy, this Cam Smith, is an absolute beast of an artist. So he did the first issue because Marvel UK swept him up. And we're doing what was it called? Action Man, is that what it was called? Their version of kind of like G.I. Joe. And boy, oh boy, do I got to find some of that stuff, because if this is right around this same time where his style is this. Now, I think he went on to become a fairly popular inker. Maybe he won an Eisner at one point, or some sort of, maybe it wasn't an Eisner, some sort of award for his inking later on in his career. Did a bunch of stuff for Marvel and DC, I think. And then, of course, yeah, Action Force. Thank you. That's it. There's some ads for the other ones. So there's Barbarian as well, featuring Cuirass. And then there's the Nick Hazard Interstellar Agent with, I think, a different cover than what we saw on the other ad, isn't it? But this guy, one hell of a unique artist. I mean, it's kind of, he must have been a really fast, I don't know if he was a fast creator or not, because I look at this and it doesn't scream to me that it's somebody who's going to go and work for Marvel UK to pump out their books. I think it's phenomenal looking art, but it's not the kind of art that screams that let's kind of pump you into the mainstream system here and see what you can do. I wish he had done more issues. He was supposed to do the second issue as well, but work picked up quite a bit. Apparently, this is all from the write-up in the second issue. They talk about it. So he only had a few pages done, and they brought in the next artist, which turned out to be the was it? Yeah, it was the letterer, I think, ended up also doing inking duties, and they brought in a different penciler. So this Daryl Andrews ends up kind of doing the inking and the lettering in the next issue. I think the writer stays the same too. The story was messy. I found it difficult sometimes with this one to keep track of who the characters were. Not that it mattered too much in the long run, but it was a little confusing at times. But these look like rough women. These are they've lived a life. They're rough around the edges. It's really, really enjoyable. I could read, once I kind of got into the storytelling, though, I could read a series of this team easily. Like 12 issues where they go on these kind of, even if it was just 2-issue story arcs, I think would be a lot of fun. But it's just stellar art. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you there, AFPC. It's so goddamn good. So that was a fun read. And then we jump to issue number 2, and you can see, like, for me, I could see this style of art being something that would be maybe more appealing to someone to work on the Marvel thing, but what do I know, right? I found this art, I found it again difficult to keep track of who was who, because I mean, this is our cover woman here is the same character here. You know what? It lacks boobies, 100%. Absolutely. There's a couple of shower scenes where they tease at it, but ultimately there's no nip slips. So Coral Mustin is the same character here. So quite a bit of a difference there. So, and then here's the one page that they included from Cam's work that was supposed to appear in this issue. And it looks even better here in this kind of a little bit shitty reproduction on the inside. There's a little bit of a Guy Caldwell feel to some of this. I wonder if any of these pages exist out there to buy, because I think those would be a lot of fun. So again, the story was fine. It all kind of wraps up pretty nicely. Of course, our team wins. They leave with a bag of money and go off onto their next adventure. Looking like a Xena warrior princess there a little bit. And then another ad for Barbarian. My arresting officer warned me there'd be days like this. So great book, really good. Correct me if I'm wrong there, AFPC. Did it only go these 2 issues, or was there a 3rd issue? I don't remember from looking on my comic shop. What should we go to next? Well, we've only really got these. Maybe we'll do that one last. So Colin had turned me on to a new channel, and on one of his videos, or he has a number of videos, he looked at some James O'Barr. Oh, only aware of 2. Okay. He looked at some James O'Barr, and I think it was it must have been one of these Slash issues that he looked at in a video, and it just reminded me that I had them and haven't really read them. So I pulled these out, and also from North Star, I have 2 issues of Splatter as well too. So I read these as well. They were a lot better than I thought they were going to be. I knew that the art was going to be great in some of it, but the stories were actually pretty entertaining as well too. So right off the top, we get a James O'Barr story of this guy who's a critic for these kind of shitty slasher movies. And that's what he spends his time doing, kind of getting wasted and writing these reviews and seeing these schlocky movies. So we get some replaying of the movies themselves. So we get some real nasty kind of uber violence here. Get introduced to his wife and kids, and she just kind of shits on him. He's trying to make the money, so he says, and she thinks that he's wasting his time and yada yada. And then there's kind of a twist here too, where he's able to, there's a poster on the wall, and he's able to actually see into another dimension through this poster. So he kind of concocts this plan, and I won't spoil it. But so that James O'Barr art was pretty great. There's better in some of the other stuff here. Brian Azzarello doing some dialogue in this one. Nathan Loggins, pencils. Phil Moy, inks. What the heck was this story again? Honestly, I don't even remember what the hell this story was. Some kid. Oh, this clown kind of character. That just screams 90s to me. Some kind of evil looking clown. Yeah, it clearly, this one did nothing for me. I wasn't crazy about the art. Hello, Tony. Happy Father's Day to you as well, too. It didn't do anything for me. I see a clown, I automatically shut down. This one was pretty fucking intense. Night City, music on the bridge. This guy on a bridge playing sax, and these cops come, and they've got someone in their car, and they're complimenting him on his playing and asking him to keep playing some songs. I think they asked him to play some Charlie Parker. Just keep playing, and they kind of get this guy out of the car and just beat the shit out of him, as this guy's just bystanding playing music, and eventually toss this motherfucker over the bridge. It's a pretty intense little story, actually. Here's the credits here. Mort Castle, Mark A. Nelson, and Willie Schubert. No names that I recognize, but quite an intense short little tale. And then I saw this ad, and I don't know how the hell I missed it. I'm a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. And there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre North Star comic with Tim Vigil, Val Merrick. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell, man? This is a crazy ass drawing of Leatherface here. So that's also made it to the list. I got to hunt that sucker down. And then this is a fantastic ad to Vigil and Vigil present Fritz. Does that say Fritz Whistle there, I think? I love seeing the ads in this stuff. But I mean, this is 90s black and white at a peak, man. It's nuts. It's really just nuts. This art in here. Yeah. I'm going to make sure that I mark this video safe for kids. Kelly Jones portfolio ad. Zeitgeist, they give you a little sample of the one that's coming from James O'Barr in the next issue. And this is the one that he looked at in that video, and I'm blanking on his channel's name. Colin, I don't know if you're still here and you can kind of mention it in the chat, but I'm blanking on what his channel's called. I've only watched a few videos from him, but I love this piece. I think the Kayfabe guys looked at this one too. I really, really enjoy the art in this one a lot. So let's have a look at slash number 2. So for slash number 1, they broke the bank and they, did the glossy lettering and did kind of a heavier card stock for the cover. This one goes back to a regular flimsy floppy, but no complaints. It's still great. So then here's the Zeitgeist. We get the whole short story, but it's madness. The channel is Rowley Zero. Thank you very much, Colin. There it is up on the screen for anybody in case this comments. I see sometimes that the comments don't transfer when it goes to YouTube, but so I'm not really sure how that works. Yeah, great art. Really fantastic. And just the level of violence in this stuff is out of control. Smashing heads. And now they got a cop car. Next, 42 people die. I don't know how many issues this slash went. Here's an ad for Splatter. Something called Ratman. Trying to remember what this story was too. Something about a bus and letting them off. I don't remember what the hell this was. More violence is what it was. That's not a bad layout there with that panel looking up between buildings. So anyway, yeah, that was those. Tim Vigil did it. A 4 poster set, full color, macabre erotica. Yeah, intense stuff here on display for sure. But I really dug it. I really liked it. And what do we have? We'll have a quick look at Splatter as well. I think it was issue 2 that had some great stuff. Oh, that's right. Both of these had some Dave Cooper work in it. Some just mental Dave Cooper stuff. Early. So what year are we talking about here? So there's some Cooper there. It has a date of 1990 on it, I think. So this came out in 91. So there's Dave Cooper doing the interior there. Vampire and werewolf story here to start off that was actually pretty good too. I liked it quite a bit. Again, there you go, G, if you're still here. Just for you, bud. And for the kids out there. Let's get to the Dave Cooper. Oh, this was a mental one as well. These guys writing a comic. I think they were writing a comic, or were they writing a script? I don't remember. But they start brainstorming and walking around the city and brainstorming about what their killers are going to do. And they start reenacting it. They start acting it out on people passing by on the street. So we get amazing images like this. Like, the fuck, man, it's just insane looking. Underground to the extreme. So and they just kind of keep going through and just killing people indiscriminately as they're working out these plot points and twists for their story, just so we can get gory frame after gory frame, even taking out a cop at one point too. Intense. Guy Burwell. And then here's the Cooper. This is from 1989 is what it's dated. Strange taste in food. Completely absurd. The second one is even more so in the other issue. Even more ridiculous. So this guy's ordered a pizza. And he's talking about how he hasn't been mentioned in the newspapers. he invites this pizza delivery guy in, and of course he kills him because it's not the pizza that he wants. He wants to eat the pizza delivery guy. So a nice wholesome cannibal tale. But the way that Cooper draws everything, everything looks kind of liquidy, and I don't know, it looks like not quite slime, but Play-Doh or something. There's a really weird feel to the art in here as you're moving through the story. So finally he's in the paper. The 39th delivery person been reported missing. So we have that. I think the next one is a food one as well too, an eating one as well too. This is beautiful. I really like this one too. Just the art is really, really nice in this story. Again, trying to remember what the hell it was ultimately about. But death makes an appearance. And a fight with death. And then finally at the end, the dead rise and come to take advantage of our main character, as they would. So there's that. We'll have a quick look at second issue here. This Tim Truman kind of looking, looks like Grimjack, sort of has a Spain Rodriguez feel. Not a bad character design there. But let's just quickly look at the Dave Cooper, then we'll move on to my thoughts on the Warlock 5 book there that I read. So here we go with the other Cooper. And again, it's this gluttonous, insatiable appetite guy who just keeps stuffing his face, looking for stuff to eat. What's left to eat? What the hell? May as well eat himself. So he starts chewing off his fingers, chewing off his arms, chewing at his feet, chewing at his stomach, and just gorging himself with himself. Grizzly, his art just makes it even more twisted than it already is. If it was this kind of stuff, it would just be kind of grotesque and, you know, shocking for shock's sake. But because of his liquidy, wormy kind of line, it gives it an extra level of absurdity in a book that I assume with this kind of stuff they were trying to be kind of as offensive as possible. Hey, look, more clowns. Yippity skippity. This was a pretty entertaining one again, that almost kind of comical as they talk about this couple that continue to fight, and their fights turn ultra violent and back and forth. They keep kind of one-upping each other until they finally realize that, you know, they're of course madly in love, and you know, the cycle of an abusive relationship. But she threw a grenade in and ended up blowing everything up. So there you go. Love will destroy the world. Same Dave Cooper. Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. Same Dave Cooper. And also of, what the hell was that one that Crumb made fun of in the documentary on him? I've got it here somewhere too. I saw it just the other day when I was cleaning up. But he's the exact same Dave Cooper. So, thoughts on Warlock 5? My first thought is find the single issues. Do not sleep on the single issues. You need to have the single issues. This was great to sit and puke and explode. Thank you, Colin. That's exactly it. Puke and explode. I read the entire thing again. I wanted to read everything because I'm missing one issue from this run. And then this one prints issue number 14 and 15 that were previously unpublished as something that sort of ties up the story. Honestly, I think issue 14 and 15 drag out the story a little bit too much. I kind of like issue 13. Oh, there you go, Protege there. So that's right, because there was some stories. There's an issue of Comics Journal where he talks about from what I've heard, potentially like an abusive relationship. I don't know if it's inferred in the little clip that I read that it was maybe sexual, but I don't know if that's actually the case or if I was just reading it wrong. So I would say that issue 13, I think, ends it really nicely. I mean, spoiler alert for a comic from the 80s, but it's this sort of, one of the main characters is thinking about the outcome, and it's just the death for the world because they can't kind of keep, our main characters are in charge of these gates to another dimension, and they harness this power, and these gates are the key to kind of the universe not imploding on itself. But every master of their own gate, they don't get along, and they're fighting like crazy. And of course, there's always someone who wants to be the gatekeeper of all of the gates so he can control the world, etc., etc., the usual kind of stuff. So here's a good example. As nice as this stuff is, let's go to, just give me one sec here. I've got them. I have the single issues out. As nice as that stuff is, let's go back to the beginning here. I mean, it's always going to be the case that redoing stuff on very white paper, you're going to lose something. But the amount that you lose in this book is different than in other books, because he had this airbrush and kind of like this soft kind of look to his art. It's really losing something. It feels like, let's see if we can find another example. Let's go back to those dragons. I think that was a real standout one for me when I was looking back at this. It almost feels like different art tools because of that, putting it on. And I mean, you know, the book itself, like the floppy is faded a little more, so it gives a bit more life to everything. Come on, where's those damn dragons? Here we go. So, I mean, look at this. Like that, to me, that's stunning. It's gorgeous art. And again, it's another one of those books that you're here for the art. The art is just beautiful. The story is whatever. It's good enough. But then you compare that to this, and it just loses something. The blacks are a lot blacker. I like that everything is kind of faded and a little more gray. This sits on the page. It still looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot more character in this. So as much as I love that they did a hardcover collection, and I love that they put the extra books in, and that there's a little bit of a write-up, and there's even a photo at the end of the book of the creators, do not sleep on the single issues. You need to have these single issues, because this is, like most things, I would say that this is the way to read it. There's the comparison there. Again, nothing wrong with this. But I think if I would have just read this on its own and not known about the floppies or seen the floppies, I don't know if it would have resonated as much for me as it does in that single issue form. So the story itself is fine. I marked some stuff because I wanted to make a little avatar for a future stream of our Sunday chat with some of those characters. And what else did I mark here? I love the effect on this one. This is just something that I wanted to make sure I showed in the stream, because I mean, that looks fantastic even in this hardcover as well. So there's nothing wrong with that, as she gets drugged and kind of imprisoned in her gate. So just put the new book in the oven for a couple hours. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely right. Yeah. Keep it out in the sun for a little bit. Yeah. Higher contrast. Absolutely. Get it extra crispy, 100%, especially this one that was all damaged. So on a positive note, I did hear back from the people that put this out, and he's going to be sending me out a copy on Monday. So I got to give a shout out to Outland Entertainment. No problems whatsoever. No questions asked. I sent the photos. He got back to me and he apologized, and he said he'd get another copy out to me. So that's great. So Colin, maybe when it shows up, maybe send me your address and I can send you this copy if you want. It's beaten to shit, but if you want it, man, it's all yours. Yeah, there we go. That's Warlock 5. Like I said, I'm really, really glad I got it. I love that series. I would recommend it to anybody at the drop of a hat, especially people who watch this channel and who kind of appreciate the off the beaten path stuff. So let's move this. So I don't know. I'll just kind of give you a quick flip through this here. Yeah, cool, man. Shoot me a message. So I sort of kind of this drawer and parts of the second drawer over in this filing cabinet, I had a tendency to just throw stuff in and kind of put them back. So I'd wanted to organize this for a long time. And I finally got around to it last night. I was up pretty late doing it, but I think it was worth it. So I won't show you everything that's in here, just kind of, so I start off on here with more of the, it's mystery all the way to kind of back here or whatever. Yeah, there's the DC mystery stops right there. And then we've got some, this is Wild Dog. And then I've got the ESPers, which was also an Eclipse. It ran to a bunch of different companies. Rasa and I did a hangout where we were reading all of that stuff together. And then because this row is Fantagraphics, I have some Fantagor Press in here as well. I kind of got all of my Eros Comics single issues that I have and kind of kept them all. So we got Eros Comics here. We've got Monster Comics down here. We got Fantagraphics, and we got Starhead, which was also kind of an offshoot of Fantagraphics. I only have a couple of Starhead books, but those are there as well. And then what I wanted to talk to you about here, maybe show a couple of things, is this side, because this side is all of the, yeah, Wild Dog is fun for sure. This is all the independent publishers. So again, it's not all strictly black and white 80s or anything like that. But this is what I've done. So kind of, and again, organized by publisher. So this is the A's, the B's, etc. So things like Mayhem with Alex Nino cover there, some really early Alex Nino art. I think we've looked at that in the past. So stuff from like A+ Comics, Adventures into the Unknown, more A+ Comics with Magic Man, and yeah, Aardvark Vanheim. I've got some Cerebus single issues, Jaka's story that Gore Vidal always recommends as a good place. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to go through some of this, but this might be a fun video at some point to have. No, I'm just missing one issue of Warlock 5 there, Hex Pillar. I can't remember if it's issue number 11. I think it might be issue number 11, but yeah, then I've got the rest of them. From the Darkness, they had the 2 issues, Colin, that I was missing from this on my comic shop, and I was pretty tempted to do a third order. I ended up not doing it. I just can't afford it. I cannot justify doing a third order to my comic shop, but I don't know when those issues are going to pop up again. So we'll see what ends up happening. Yeah, so this will probably be a video at some point where we can, I thought it would be fun to look through, because I found a whole bunch of great stuff. And again, I found a bunch of stuff that was spread through a few different cabinets from the same company. So it's really, it's so much nicer to have everything kind of here in one spot. And I kind of ended it off with Vortex and Renegade, because I've got quite a few of those. So those are kind of at the back of the back of the second row there. But it's nice to have all this kind of weird indie stuff in one spot, along with the Fantagraphics and the mystery. This is a drawer that I go to quite often. So anyway, I'll set something up at a later date, and maybe we'll do kind of a hangout where we just kind of look through stuff and see what's in the drawer. think I might have pulled some stuff out of here too. No, I didn't I don't think I took too much out of here. A lot of like Dark Horse and things in this drawer, and then there's some DC horror titles over there. But again, I've said it a few times, but I am so happy that I transitioned over to this filing cabinet system. The collection is just a million times more accessible. It's so great to have it laid out like this. Unfortunately, I am running out of some space, so I do have to put some books kind of laying on top. I have space above for one more short box, so I'll probably end up getting one there to put some of that overflow in there, or try to do a bit of reorganizing. Anyway, enough about that. I got a couple of random issues I picked up from bins. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been an easy one to find. I did have to buy some on my comic shop just to get things going there, but it's not an easy one to find for sure, but it's really well worth it putting a run together. So thanks very much, everybody. We'll talk to you.